Hello again. You found me here once more in my cosy little den. I tell you, I've got the most amazing story to tell you ever. The beginning of the story starts really excitedly, and then the middle it gets a bit sad, and then at the end, well, you'll just have to wait and see. This story is the most epic story ever. It runs across the whole of 1 week. I'll do the best I can to tell you everything, but, well, you might want to read about it after I've told you. So, picture the scene. Jesus and his disciples, that was his friends and his followers, were travelling into a little town, and Jesus was riding on a donkey. This donkey had never been ridden before. And as Jesus was riding into this town on the donkey, he saw before him all the people from the town waiting to see him. They had palm leaves and they were waving them in the sky, saying, "Hosanna, Hosanna, the King is here, Jesus is here, Hosanna." Oh, they were so excited to see him. As Jesus was riding into the town, he was stopped by some religious leaders, and they said, "Jesus, are you really going to let them shout this to you? Are you really going to let them praise you like this?" Jesus said to these religious leaders, "Of course. If they did not praise, the rocks would cry out." Huh? Funny phrase. The rocks would cry out. It basically means that Jesus wanted them to worship God. He wanted them to praise and worship and celebrate. Now, the religious leaders did not like this one bit. They did not like Jesus one bit. He was saying that he was the Son of God, and they thought this was totally not right at all. So they began to plot and scheme. Jesus realized what might be happening. Now, move on a few days, and it was Passover. This was a celebration where everyone would get together and eat and drink and laugh and have a really good time. Jesus was sat around the table with all of his friends, and they were having a great time. And then Jesus did something a little bit peculiar. He got, well, not my tea, but he picked up some wine and he said, "This is my blood which is shed for you." And he picked up some bread and he broke it and he said, "This is my body which is given for you." It didn't make sense, and well, Jesus was saying lots of confusing things, and the disciples, his friends and his followers, thought, "Wait a second, Jesus, where are you going? Are you leaving us?" Jesus said to them, "I'm going to be with my Father." And he also confided that one of the people around the table was going to betray him and give him up to these religious leaders. And he looked around and he also said that one of his friends around the table was going to deny that they were his friend at all. His friends could not believe this. But you wait and see what happened next. Jesus decided that he needed some time alone. So he went to somewhere called the Garden of Gethsemane. Now, this garden was beautiful. And Jesus had 2 of his friends with him, and they sat over there. And Jesus decided that he needed some time alone. So he went and he sat by himself. He asked his friends, "Please do not sleep. Keep an eye out for anyone who might come up and discover us." So his disciples said, "All right, we won't sleep." But they got really tired and they began to fall asleep. Jesus was there by himself praying to God, "Please, God, what is about to happen next? Please, if there is any other way, let it not happen." This was peculiar because Well, no one knew what was going to happen next, but obviously Jesus knew. But he looked over at his disciples, that was his friends and his followers, and they were asleep. He woke them up and said, "You said you were not going to sleep." Oh yeah, sorry Jesus, we won't sleep this time. So Jesus went away, took himself away to pray, and the disciples began to get sleepy once more. As Jesus prayed, he prayed again, "Please God, if there is any other way, let this not happen." And he looked over at his disciples and they were sleeping once more. "Wake up," he said, "wake up. You need to keep a lookout for anybody who may come up here and discover us." "Oh yes, sorry Jesus, yeah, we're awake. And Jesus went away to pray one more time and to talk to his Father in heaven. But there, coming up the hill, towards the garden where he was praying, he saw soldiers, religious leaders, and his friend, Judas. Judas came towards him and hugged him and kissed him. At that point, the soldiers took Jesus, they grabbed him, the religious leaders grabbed him, and they took him away. The next few days are a blur, are a mess, but, well, lots of things happened that weren't very nice. You see, Jesus was put on trial. He was put up on trial to go and to be taken away to be killed. It was him against another man called Barabbas. Barabbas was not a very nice man at all, but the crowd voted for Barabbas to be freed and for Jesus to be taken and to be put on a cross to die. See, the next part, it's really quite sad, because the soldiers lifted Jesus onto this big wooden cross and they put needles into his hands and he hung there and they left him. People sat at the foot of that cross, at the bottom of the cross, looking up to God's Son, and they wept and they cried as he was left there to die. And the soldiers took him away. "It is finished," cried Jesus as he took his last breath. The soldiers left him in a little cave. There he was to lay until later, past 3 days. And Mary went to visit the tomb where Jesus was supposed to be, but there, rolled away, was the stone from the front, and left was the tomb empty. What? Mary turned around and saw 2 people standing there. "What have you done with him? What have you done with Jesus' body? You've taken it. You've done horrible things to it. Where have you put it?" But there was a person standing there, and it was Jesus. "It's me," Jesus said. "It's me. I'm here. I'm alive, Mary. I've rose from the dead. The tomb is empty and death has no hold on me." What? Mary could not believe it. Jesus, there he was. Jesus said, "Go and tell the others. Tell them what has happened." So Mary ran as fast as she could. She could not believe it. Jesus had rose rose from the dead. She told the other disciples, and they couldn't believe it either. And wait a second. They were in the upper room, in this room, closed doors, as Mary was telling them what exciting news she had. And they did not believe it until there he was. The holes in his hands where he had been pinned to that cross. Jesus was alive. And you know what? This is true for today, for you and me too. You see, Jesus, he's alive. And although it may feel like we have no hope, we are lost and left sad, worried, scared, the truth is that Jesus is here. Jesus is here, and he wants to have a relationship with you, with me, with all of us, because he loves us so much. He wants to have a friendship with us. How amazing is that? Now, I've just told you a little bit of the story, but if you want to know more, go and have a look in your Bible, read about it, pray to God, talk to God and say, wow, God, I want to have a friendship with you, a relationship with you. Because you know, when Jesus died on that cross, it was sad, but he did it so that we could have a friendship with him. He did it so that we could have a friendship with God. He did it so that we could be loved forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. I don't know about you, but I think that is pretty amazing. I really hope that you enjoyed this story as much as I did. And I really hope that you will join me tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. because we're going to do some drama to explore this story and to discover even more about how amazing Jesus is. See you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.